So as I said, I want to take an opportunity to talk about something else. About UUism, about youth, UU youth and UU young adults, about culture, and about the future. I'm going to mention some numbers, most coming from the UUA. As I said, it was 3 a.m. when I finished this. I was not about to do the math, and so I looked at someone else's. Wasn't going to do the math. So only 12.5% of UU adults were raised UU. That's 3 out of 25 UU adults. We don't have immense growth. So what happens to raised UUs? I'd consider myself a raised UU now, I would probably say. The average number of bridging youth, at least this is pre-2009, because that was the numbers that I wasn't going to do the math for after that, was 4,000 a year in the UUA, 4,000 bridging youth. So what happens that only 320 out of that 4,000 stay? I can't say I know all the answers, but I can share some of my experiences, maybe shed some light. When I first entered UU spaces as a wide-eyed 13-year-old, looked up to all the youth who were 17, 18, 19, they were all so driven, so passionate about UUism, inspiring to me. But as the years have passed and people have bridged and gone on, I see a pattern. Passionate, engaged UU youth become unaffiliated with any congregation and even leave UUism as a whole. I've reconnected with quite a few older friends in recent months, and I can count on one hand those who would still call themselves UU. Through various conversations, I've started to learn why, and there are two key themes: frustration and tiredness, both of not feeling heard and valued in the adult community, feeling that people's voices are silenced, as well as not seeing the drive for change in the adult community that is present in the youth community. Both within congregations and wider community social justice work, people are tired and feel like their voices can do more in other spaces. The desire for wholeness and community is fulfilled more in spaces with a shared drive for change, greater change than offered on any congregational level. Another thing I've heard a lot, not so much from ex-UUs as they've resigned to existing outside UUism, but from older youth / bridging adults who have a spark, who still have a spark and a connection. It's the idea of once we're in charge. Where'd I go? Many feel frustrated with the status quo and have resigned themselves to waiting until they have the means to create the change they want to see. Youth don't feel heard now, and they've settled to wait. Now I know, youth wanting things to be different, when else has that happened throughout history? Goodness. Sure, but youth today are the adults of tomorrow, and if we want UUism to exist years down the line, we have to invest and listen to our youth and young adults. Those who currently say, when we're in charge, are the people who likely won't identify with UUism in a few years' time. I'm sad to say that the passionate and driven youth I looked up to a few years ago, who are now young adults, report no plans to return to UUism in the near future. I hear stories of pain and hurt, going from loving UUism and its values to feeling unheard, lost, and no longer passionate. The biggest falling out and divide I've seen between youth and young adults and the wider rest of the adult population is politics. Rifts in congregations on the basis of disagreements in terms of politics or social justice is not new. We've seen it in the recent events in this very congregation. There's an immense divide regarding the change we want to see in the world. What is viewed as liberal or progressive 20 or 30 years ago isn't viewed as such today. Definitions change, movements change, and streams of thought change. What was viewed as more radical and open-minded years ago is now the status quo or even the past on college campuses. Youth are miles ahead in so many ways, and that isn't a dig. Our perspectives are simply different. I see more social justice and progress occurring amongst youth and young adults in other spaces, and so it's no surprise that new adults feel tired, exasperated, and seek elsewhere outside of UUism. I guess that's really all I want to say about that. Do I have a solution? No. Do I think congregations need some serious reflection on what is being liberal and progressive and what it means and how that should affect our social justice work? Yes. In this ever-changing world, do we want UUism to be the forefront of change or lagging behind? As Ron will be giving Sean and I a charge today, I'm assuming, I don't know, it's usually what happens, some of that sort. I have one for the rest of the congregation. More questions, really, but I do think we need them answered if we want UUism to last, and in this ever-changing world. What does it mean to be a progressive movement? If we're going to say social justice is fundamental to UUism, how can we make sure that we are acting upon that value? How can people make sure we are securing our future by supporting and empowering our young people? Yes, those are the questions I'll leave with you. The lingering thing is, will I remain UU? A big question, a lot goes into it. Much has shaped who I am today, and a big part has been in youth spaces. I've loved the youth community and grown so much through attending cons, youth group sleepovers. As a very involved youth, many around me, even youth and young adult peers, would expect me to remain involved, but 12.5% doesn't look like very good odds. And I certainly feel the frustration and tiredness talked about along others who have bridged, and young adults who have felt quite disillusioned with UUism over the past, for me at least, in the past year and a half or so. Truth is, I don't know if I'll be part of the 12.5%. My spiritual needs can be met in different ways, not always in traditional services. My drive for social justice and change means I need to see progress, and there are many places I can contribute to such change in ways that feel maybe more productive. I would love to see that happen in youth spaces, but I don't know if that'll be the case. I've had lengthy discussions with friends who have also bridged this year, and as frustrated as we've all been in various ways, many are still passionate about UUism. But give it a year or so, and I'd guess that number will be half, and then less, and then less. These are incredible, young, beautiful individuals that would be a gift to have them in the future of UUism. For the sake of this faith, I hope they stay. But I see the outcome of those who were so passionate about 5 years ago and where they are now, and I don't see much hope. The question is always, why do they leave? Why do young adults leave? When it comes to engaged youth becoming unengaged young adults, but I'd like to reframe that question. Instead of why do they leave, why should they stay? I don't know how to end this, but I guess I'll bring it back to the questions. What does it mean to be a progressive movement? If we're going to say social justice is fundamental to UUism, how can we make sure we are acting upon that value? And how do we make sure we are securing our future by supporting and empowering our young people? Although I don't know if I'll be in the future of UUism at the moment, I want UUism to have a bright and vibrant future with thriving congregations. With thriving congregations at the forefront of community-driven action. I want UUism to still exist in 50 years, but that won't happen if we don't progress with the times, have social justice at the front of our minds, and uplift and engage the adults and leaders of tomorrow. I want to share a quote by the Rebbe. He left an incredible legacy as the most recent leader of the Chabad Lubavitch movement within Hasidic Judaism. And the anniversary of his death was yesterday. He died in 1994. This quote refers to the concept of tikkun olam, roughly translating to repair the world in Hebrew. If you see what needs to be repaired and how to repair it, then you have found a piece of the world that God has left you for you to complete. But if you only see what is wrong and what is ugly in the world, then it is you yourself that needs repair. So whether that be God, or the universe, or society's own gaps, there is an obligation to pursue justice, and I couldn't really say it any better than that. Thank you.